Hey, this is the C&D channel. I'm Chris. This is Dave, and this is MMA for You, giving you a UFC 118 post-fight analysis. If you have any questions about MMA, just go to the C&D channel at gmail.com for all your questions about MMA, and we'll try to answer them as soon as possible. Before we get into this, we'd like to thank our sponsor,
GoBusiness123.com.
So, for any of your resume needs, where do you go?
GoBusiness123.com.
And how about business consultation?
GoBusiness123.com.
And how about job postings?
GoBusiness123.com.
Cool. So, let's get right to it. We'll actually start backwards right now. Just some quick results. Mike Pierce beat Amilcar Alves by crossbody armbar. Which actually kind of surprised me. I thought Pierce would do a lay and pray type deal, but it's nice to see him get a finish. It's always nice to see a guy get a finish, unlike that Gray Maynard guy, but we'll get there. My man Nick Oshipshak fell short to Kurt Pellegrino trained Greg Soto by unanimous decision. And they did show this fight. Dan Miller won by it was a guillotine or anaconda choke against Mike Salter. Good fight. Great to see that Miller got the win. He's always a guy I like, very tough fighter. I mean, he was coming off like these three fights that are just so tough in middleweight against Chael Sonnen, which he lost, Damian Maia, and Michael Bisping, all lost by decision. Great to see him come back. I always like Dan Miller. John Salter looked alright. He does have good wrestling. His striking needs some improvement. He does have a good, power punch, but otherwise, he's still in the lower tier of the division. I'd like to see someone like Miller just, move back to the middle division, fight the Alessio Sakaras, the Jorge Riveras, the Nate Quarries, and whatnot. So that'd be pretty cool. Also, what they showed on the Spike prelims was Nick Lentz beating Andre Winner by decision. Lentz was very relentless about his wrestling. Winner definitely was better in the stand-up, but I did feel that Winner was a little too content in just trying to stuff the takedowns of Lentz, but not really predicate it with any type of offense. He'd pretty much stuff it and just kind of sit there to stuff it. He's not trying to turn it around to really put Lentz against the cage. And one time, the couple times Winner put Lentz against the cage, Winner just seriously didn't let go, didn't go back to stand up. He wouldn't take the center of the octagon. He was more towards a fence a lot of times. So there's still a lot of problems of Winner. Great win by Lentz. It definitely moves him up. Very aggressive, very strong wrestling type of guy. I hear his kickboxing is really good, but he didn't really get to show it too much against Winner. There's a lot of fights for these guys. If Lentz wants to fight anyone from like the Escudero versus the Bronx Winner or Joe Lozon even, who we'll get to. There's good fights for Lentz. There's good fights for Winner as well too. But the final fight of the Spike TV prelims was Joe Lozon versus the returning Gabe Rudiger. Dude, demolition. I mean, seriously, Lozon was just, he did like 3 takedowns. One was a freaking like big boss man sidewalk slam. To this beautiful armbar. As both of us are Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioners, great to see. I mean, he was a little wild. Obviously, it's not like Damian Maia, who we'll also get into. But he got the job done. How do you think his performance went, Dave?
The takedown is amazing. I mean, it's just beautiful body slam, and the armbar is amazing. The transitions, can't say anything about. It's amazing.
I was also impressed with Lozon's ground and pound. He really seemed. I know it was his hometown. It really seemed like he had something to prove here, and he proved it. Rudiger, not really a UFC talent anyways. Lozon is. Very impressed with Lozon. If he wants to fight Nick Lentz next, that'd be a good fight. I wouldn't mind seeing him fight the winner of Escudero versus Charles de Bronx Olivier. But it's a great performance. Very, very. That was the best Joe Lozon I've seen, to be honest. Now to the main card. We'll get to Marcus, the Irish Hand Grenade, versus Nate Diaz. Did you guys see that fight?
I didn't get to catch that.
Okay, it was mainly a stand-up fight. Oh man, Davis had this thing in his eye. I mean, he got cut here. It swelled. It looked like an alien in his eye. It was really gross. It was pretty much what I predicted. Nate Diaz's reach would be a little too much. He got tagged pretty early, and he got tagged pretty often. It really shows me he's quite not like his brother Nick, as far as the stand-up game goes. He ended up winning by a great. It's like a guillotine. It's like a guillotine. It looked like an anaconda choke. I really like the grip. I think it was like an Ezekiel style grip, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not too sure. I don't know what Yves Levine was thinking, because I was like, hey, Marcus Davis is out. Stop the fight, ref. And the ref's all like, no, he's just like, la di da da. And it was like, dude, now he's in a coma, bro. It was so ridiculous. I was like, not very fond of Yves Levine's performance. Reffing lately, but Nate Diaz looked good. I'm not a big fan of his, to be honest. I can't really stand his attitude too much, but I do acknowledge he's a really good fighter. Looks great at this weight too, man. He just physically. I mean, he looks so skinny at 155. I mean, he just looked drained. He looks like he packed on a lot of muscle. His height and reach is a great advantage for him. I gotta wonder though. Once he goes up against those wrestlers in the division, I don't think he'll do that well. The Diaz brothers have always had a weakness against wrestlers. I mean, their ground game's awesome, but a lot of people can nullify their ground game off their back, off the Diaz brothers' back. But yeah, Nate Diaz, he can go pretty far. There's some good fights for him. If he wants to fight like some AKA guys, like a Mike Swick or something, that'd be pretty cool. Nate Diaz, Diego Sanchez would be cool. Paulo Thiago. I mean, Paulo Thiago is gonna fight Diego Sanchez. The winner of that versus Nate Diaz would be really cool. There's a lot of fights. If he wants to fight someone like Carlos Condit, for example, that'd be a cool fight. I wouldn't mind seeing that, to be perfectly honest. Good fights, and honestly, yeah, I kind of want to put Nate Diaz more to the mid and upper of the division. Probably more towards the mid. I mean, he could go against Mike Pierce, who just came off a win. The thing is, Pierce's style, I think, would maybe nullify Diaz, but it's hard to say. Maybe Diaz will get a Bravo or guillotine if Mike Pierce shoots in. So, very interesting. A lot of good fights for him. Marcus Davis, back to the drawing board. Gatekeeper. I'm a big fan of Marcus Davis, but it just kind of shows he's well-rounded, but he's just not there as far as like the top of the division. Always a test for new guys. Will be a good test for even the top guys. Will have a hard time with him. Always a game fighter. He has really fun fights. This was a really fun fight too. So very impressed. Very impressed with Nate Diaz. But like as far as Marcus, back to the drawing board with him. So, just go to part 2 right after the jump. Thanks.